So far too often throughout the entirety of this season, even probably last season, I have come on this very channel and I've tried to put a positive spin on things. I've tried to be happy. Hey guys, look at this. Hey, maybe there's so much time left. I've done everything. I'm exhausted now. The 125th anniversary of this team is supposed to be a celebration. It ended up turning into a protest from the fans, telling the management, we have waited and supported you endlessly. We have had enough of your mediocrity. The fact of the matter is this, and the disconnect is this obvious. It's the 125th birthday of this team, and the owner of this team doesn't even show up to the stadium for it. That tells you everything that you need to know about where this team is. Completely disconnected from what it means to be associated with this club, what the history of this club entails. Even today's celebration, 125th anniversary celebration, it was all about the past. I know it's supposed to be about the past. It's supposed to be about the history, but you know what it was a celebration about? About things that have happened, about things that don't look like they're gonna happen right now, or things that you think are gonna happen in the near future. It is not a celebration about Milan's players today. Zlatan Ibrahimovic was asked, do you think any of this current crop of Milan players is gonna get the title of a Milan legend? He said, I guess we'll have to wait and see. That tells you everything. It's a club, an organization, a group that is simply milking its past. Everything that it did before, not even done by this ownership or management. The present day measure of Milan is what happened in today's match. That's who this AC Milan is. The present day measure of this AC Milan is the 8th place that they sit in, outside, well outside of Champions League contention. The present day measure of Milan is that in 15 matches, they've picked up 23 points. 23 points. Of course you're going to have to live in your history. Your today sucks. And of those 15 matches in the league, here are the teams you've dropped points against. Torino, Parma, Cagliari, today Genoa. Half these games have been at home. These 4 games should have resulted in 12 points. You know how many points Milan picked up from these 4 games? 3. 3 points. Add another 9 to this, suddenly you're sitting with 32 points, basically in 2nd or 3rd place. I can't give you guys fancy 4 takeaways or graphics. I'm exhausted watching this team play this way. Here's what we have to try and parse through, I guess. Who do we blame for this? The fact is, it's broken on every single level, including the beautiful stadium that Milan sits in. We start top down. You look at the ownership group, completely disconnected. Didn't even show up for today's celebration. The same thing happened when Ibrahimovic was retiring, when Maldini was still here. Didn't even show up to Ibrahimovic's retiring, a player that came back and helped the team win a Serie A title after 10 years. Complete disconnect from the ownership group. You look at the second tier, the management, the upper management. What have we gotten from them? Outside of Reinders and Christian Pulisic, what have they given us? Did you see the way that Juventus was celebrating Pierre Kalulu? All the players were chanting his name. Well, we let that player go for almost no money, and we brought in Emerson Royal. And what exactly? 15 games in Serie A, multiple games in the Champions League, basically 20 games played at this point in time, is a pretty good sample size to see what Emerson Royal has given Milan. Not too much. Look at the substitution that was made today. Noah Okafor, playing like a youth player. A player that's just thrust into the limelight and it's a little too heavy for him. Crossing the ball straight to the goalkeeper, pass another pass right out of touch, horrible control in defense. You look at a player like Alvaro Morata, helps out a lot in defense, missed multiple sitters today. As a striker, as basically a number 9, choosing to pass it back when he's basically 10 yards away from goal. Samuel Chukwueze didn't really help much. Tammy Abraham was taken off at halftime, I'm not entirely sure why. Emerson Royal, we've already seen how helpful he's been. These are the pieces that were signed by your management. You look at this squad, Mike Mignon was brought under Paolo Maldini, Gabbia was promoted under Maldini. You look at Malik Tau was a Maldini signing, and arguably they were the best players that Milan played today. So how much assistance has this present management truly provided in making this team better? Have we really taken a next step with this squad? Because if Massimo Ambrosini's words are to be believed, former captain of Milan, he said that there was a sense of optimism amongst Milan fans, amongst the Milan players, a couple seasons ago when Maldini and Masara were still here. It looked like this team was moving towards a project. They won the Serie A title in 2022. In the 2023, at the end of the Champions League rounds, they made it into the semifinals, got lost embarrassingly, but still made it to that point. They didn't make it into top 4. Juventus had to get penalized for points for Milan to, get back into top 4 in that season, but you still, in spite of that, still felt like this team was slowly progressing towards something. Not everything was perfect. Not all of Maldini Masara signings were perfect. Divock Origi wasn't, Balotelli wasn't, CDK, well, I guess the jury's out for CDK, how it would have worked out if he would have just stayed at Milan a little bit longer. But yeah, everything wasn't perfect, but there was still a sense of progression. You felt like it was going somewhere. Now you genuinely feel like this team is starting to take steps back. And look at this post from Paolo Maldini. This is there for a reason. He's letting them know nothing is going to break the bond of AC Milan from the Maldini family. Some things just transcend the ownership group or the present management or Furlani or Moncada. Some things are just bigger. And that's the name Maldini when it comes to Milan. A person's firing that at this point in time looks like the turning point. Looks like when this Milan team's progression turned into regression. And the one thing that really got to me, when Milan beat Real Madrid, one of the worst Real Madrids, at least in the Champions League in the recent past, this is the post that Zlatan Ibrahimovic put out. Almost as if, look at what we can do. Why don't you put out a post today? Why haven't we seen a post from you after the match against Cagliari 3-3? Where were your posts after Juventus 0-0 at home? Even in the Champions League, Crvena Zvezda, Slovan Bratislava, Milan are barely picking up wins against these sides. So where's this pompousness from the management today? So it's broken on the ownership level, it's broken on the management level. Now if we come to the coach, I put out this tweet. I got a mixed response from a lot of you guys. I think it was important for me to come on camera and actually clear up and explain what I actually meant from this. Guys, my point from this is very simple. Milan should have played their best 11 today. It doesn't matter if it's just another game. It is still your 125th anniversary game. The stadium is filled with your star players from the past. You want them to feel like there's optimism. When all of them are collectively at the same stadium, you want it to be a good result so that everybody can go back and everybody can talk about your team on camera in future interviews saying, you know what? This team is slowly getting somewhere. This is the last thing that you want against a weak Genoa side, to go 0-0 at home. And in my opinion, a massive reason for that, if not the starting 11, at least the 11 that were playing when the match was concluding. And there was only about 15 to 20 minutes left and the scoreline was still 0-0. I just don't think Milan still played their best 11. Now, a lot of you guys took exception about my comment for Liberali and Jimenez. Let me clear that up. Jimenez was the best player that Milan had today. That's really saying something for such a big game. My point isn't that he shouldn't have started. My point is he should have been utilized a little bit differently in the final 20 minutes. The quality that he was showing to you and the quality that Emerson was showing to you, it was a fairly easy switch that in the final 15, maybe even 10 minutes, you push Jimenez to the right flank and you put Theo Hernandez on the left flank. I understand he hasn't had a good season, but he still has that spark that he can put into your side. And a lot of you guys saying that, oh, what would have Theo Hernandez done? Probably something better than Noah Okafor. We saw what happened with Rafael Leao when Paulo Fonseca decided to drop Rafael Leao and he brought him on in the match against Lazio. He came on and scored a goal because sometimes players just need that extra fire to have to prove themselves. And look at the Rafael Leao that we have now. I think in 8-9 games, he has 7 goal contributions. So he's found his form again. Something maybe potentially similar could have happened with Theo Hernandez. He may have had that fire to want to come on and prove himself. And forget it, maybe it wouldn't have. But I could have guaranteed you in the 70th minute that if Noah Okafor comes on, nothing's going to change with this team. And that's my gripe with the coach. Should have moved Jimenez right, brought Theo on, let him go forward and attack alongside Leao. I don't know if they would have scored a goal or won the game, but I know the chances would have been better compared to when they brought Noah Okafor on. There's no question in my mind about that. That guy could barely string a pass together. I do think the injury to Yunus Musa made things a little bit more complicated. If Fonseca was obsessed with this 4-2-3-1 system, he really didn't have many options to be able to play in the number 10 role. But to me, outside of maybe a 5 to 10 minute span in the latter end of the first half, it didn't seem like Liberali was all that effective. And if Tammy Abraham was truly taken off because Fonseca just wanted to take him off and he didn't have an injury issue, I think it's even more criminal to leave Liberali on. I think at halftime, what he should have done is taken Liberali off, added Alvaro Morata on, maybe even switched to a 4-4-2 instead of a 4-2-3-1, with Leao and Samuel Chukwueze playing on the wings. And now it's been 3 matches in a row from Paulo Fonseca where he comes off the field with a poor result or a poor performance from his squad and he's blaming somebody else. The first match, it was the referee's fault. In the last match, he came out and, shot his entire team up. Issues happening behind the scenes potentially with Davide Calabria, with Theo Hernandez. And in today's match, there was something that Fonseca said. Well, the team actually got so many chances, they probably should have made better decisions in the final third. I don't disagree with his point necessarily, But what that basically says is, what is a coach's responsibility? A coach's responsibility really is to bring you to the final third. Beyond that, it has to be the individual skill of the player. You can't fully draw up a plan as to how to score goals. At some point in time, the players have to use their own intelligence, their own skill set, understand each other's movements to be able to score a goal. So what he was basically saying was that, hey, we created really good chances, we got to the final, and rest was left on the players and they didn't get the job done. I don't disagree with him. But there's a pattern that I'm noticing with Fonseca, which is after the games, he's not taking as much responsibility on himself. Dude, we sit in 8th place after 15 games. You can explain the referee, you can explain the Theo, you can explain how we got to the final third but didn't finish our chances, but you can't explain 15 games and 23 points using those methods. At some point in time, you have to blame yourself. You are also at fault. You are, at the end of the day, the coach of this team. So not every match consecutively is somebody else's fault that things are not happening. At some point in time, you're the one to be blamed too. So things are broken on the top floor with the ownership group. They're broken on the next floor with the management, bragging after you beat a bad Real Madrid side and then staying silent when things are not going right. Things are clearly broken with the coach when you only pick up 23 points in 15 matches. At the end of the day, somebody tweeted this out. Stefano Pioli came to this Milan side. He took a side that finished 6th place in the first season that he was there to a 2nd place finish in his 2nd season. But the season after that, Stefano Pioli won the title. So this team under even the previous coach was in ascendancy. It was growing. But Fonseca's taken on a team that finished in 2nd place last season and then turned them into a side that is even outside of Conference League contention. That's not a ref's fault or Theo's fault or earlier in the season Leao's fault. There's also your fault there. So things are broken on the coaching level too. So the fact is, a depressing 125th anniversary game for Milan, a management group, a coaching staff, an ownership group that are just coming here and living on the past laurels of this team and not really looking very likely to be able to build something right now. I don't know definitively about the future, but what we see right now from this team, it's looking very, very bad from the management. And they need to seriously put the microscope on their own decisions. They're not going to get everything right. Furlani is a new CEO of a football club. Ibrahimovic is just getting into this industry. Cardinale is a new owner of a major football club. They need to learn from the mistakes that they're making and not repeat these mistakes, for crying out loud. But the one thing that is for sure is that now, at least with me, I don't care if the next game is a win and they pick up 3 points. This team now needs to start showing me, at least on this channel, that they're consistently progressing in the right direction. I'm done giving them chances. I'm done giving them time. Consistent results or heads must turn. And from my side, as always, especially in a loss, Forza Milan. Grazie mille. Ciao tutti. Since Milan's dropped an anniversary jersey, and I got my hands on it.